Catus, Maximus here. This one with the Ratchet double header. This is a Ratchet's a lot easier for me to love than that great neck. And this happens to be an Indestro USA. This is the 6272 3/8 pair head Ratchet. This is a Williams Batwing Paul style Ratchet. I was a little thrown off because I was a little disappointed by the sheet metal reverse lever that was kind of stamped in there, but I noticed that when I operated the Ratchet, the lever moves with it. So though, and we can see that the pin goes all the way through, so it's supported by the back plate, properly designed. Screws go through the head and are threaded into the back plate, so you're not going to get a rebuild kit. But if you did, you'd be replacing the screws and what they thread into, rather than having the screws thread into the body. So that's a proper design. Chrome plated bottom plate, usually they're carbon finished, so that's kind of a nice touch. Even after all this time, we can see that anvil is pretty tight. Really like this. This is even the Super. Indestro is always a nice tool brand. Really coarse. This is probably going to be in the range of 24, 30, or 36 teeth. We can actually find out here and go to the other direction. And we'll count 90 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That I count 7, so that would give me 28 teeth. So probably I'm off a tooth or two over around, so I'm suspecting it's a 30 tooth because it would seem pretty unlikely that it's a 28 tooth Ratchet. Pretty strong ball detent with a lot of extension. Fit and finish is okay. The knurling could be a little bit stronger. We can see that the knurling, this appears to be a rolled knurling, and we can see an issue here. We can see that the cuts along this angle are much deeper than the ones along this angle. Pressure, a lot of simpler pressure knurlers are two wheels with slants, and they're made out of super hard steel that they squeeze on, and then the part rotates and they kind of go along, and that's how the knurls are. They're actually, it's a forging process, it's a cold working process that creates the knurling. But if the adapter is too high or too low, so one wheel is here and one wheel is like this, it can cause one to bite in harder than the other. Of course, we do have a hole through the handle, a feature of a bygone era when you could put like a lanyard or something. You could be up on high steel and not have this Ratchet fall. And of course, pegboards, which is funny because I've watched plenty of YouTube. Lots of YouTubers have pegboards in the background of their videos, particularly seems computer ones. So people still use pegboards, but none of the tools are compatible with them. Anyway, still runs okay, but I suppose we ought to take a look inside. A couple of small flathead screws. Pretty deeply recessed. I had to really clean out a lot of gunk. We can see this has been kicking around for a while. A lot of wear on the sides of the Ratchet. I always am a loss for words. I'm terrible with words. Get these couple of little screws out of here. Just look like standard screws. You can find them anywhere. Ooh, that's a little crunchy. We got some plenty of particles coming out of there. Suppose I'll blow that out. And let's take a look. Nice thick bottom plate. That is an extra thick bottom plate. Really appreciate that. This has obviously been lubed at some point in its life. So what is a little disappointing is if we pull out the anvil here. I like the way it's double supported. What I don't like is it's actually a single tooth ball. I would have appreciated if it was at least a two tooth. But that being said, that is a billet steel pawl. There's the little ball bearing that just sits in the bottom that provides tension for both the reversing and the ratcheting action. And that pawl is pretty wide, pretty sharp, so it's really diving deep. And I suppose with the fact that these teeth are just, actually these are surprisingly sharp. This has been designed for use with a pawl like that, so that pawl really is going to get that back in there. That pawl is really going to sit quite deep in there. And I've actually a long time ago did a review of and teardown of a Walden Ratchet, which was also only a single tooth, but the geometry was so good that it never, we could see that had been hammered on, and it never slipped, but it actually stretched one of the teeth on the anvil. So I don't mind that. This doesn't actually seem like a bad Ratchet at all, except for the fact that It's extremely coarse in the teeth. So there we go. Not a lot else to say besides I haven't run into actually a lot of Indestro tools. I actually have an open head, I think a 1/2 inch drive open Pear head ratchet. But this is my first Indestro sealed head ratchet. And really, I don't think it's too bad. I would have liked to see a twin tooth pawl. But other than that, this thing is built really pretty tough. Big tall pawl, extra thick bottom plate. The pawl is double supported. The only thing is this switch does give me a little bit of concern, but this ratchet's already seen quite a bit of use. And switch is still nice and tight. And this, having a nice tight anvil, this gives me a good impression. Indestro really did deserve their reputation. Another thing I'll mention is that design does offer very low back drag. Not quite as low as like a Koken ratchet, but this thing is super low back drag. I will have to admit that. This thing with that nice tight anvil, I mean, we can do this little test here and it can barely even moves the ratchet when it's clicking. This is just one of those tools that's not the finest of teeth, but everything else is as competitive as any modern ratchet. The difference is modern ratchets maybe have just a little bit more ultimate strength and of course finer teeth, but something like this somebody would have bought in the 1970s, half a century ago, and could have had this ratchet for an entire lifetime and it would have given them not a lick of trouble and could easily be passed down to other family members or friends to do yet another lifetime of work. And that's kind of the reason I like these tools and why I like this 6272 Indestro 3/8 sealed head ratchet. I guess it even has, I guess it has a little bit of charisma because we can see, it is a forged body. They didn't quite grind it. That's one of the things we can really see on this side, the flat and the flashing. This would have been smashed between two dies. There would have been a bunch of metal around the edge, and then they had another die that comes and cuts it off, and then they usually do a little bit of sanding and finishing. They could have done a little better job of the finishing, but other than that, super solid tool. And one thing I was noticing, which was nice, is there was careful attention paid to the machining of this bottom plate, because we can see if we look here and here around this lip, it's all nice and symmetrical there. Pretty nice grind this way, so careful attention was paid to the important parts of it. So that's like one of the only areas I could critique it. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.